I'm still processing this and honestly don't know what to think. My girlfriend Kara and I have been together for 3 years. Things have been mostly good, though lately I've noticed she's been getting more focused on social media and what other people think about our relationship. 2 weeks ago, my mom Linda had what we thought might be a mini stroke. She called me around 6 p.m. on a Friday, confused and slurring her words slightly. I was supposed to take Kara to this new restaurant she'd been excited about, but obviously I dropped everything and drove straight to Mom's house. For context, my mom is basically my hero. She's a retired lawyer who worked her ass off as a single parent after my dad died when I was 12. She put herself through law school while raising me and never once made me feel like I was holding her back. She's tough as nails but also the most caring person I know. So when she called sounding scared and confused, nothing else mattered. I called Kara on the way and explained the situation. She seemed understanding at first, said, of course you need to go, and that we could reschedule dinner. I spent that night in the ER with Mom, then the next 2 days helping her get follow-up appointments and making sure she was okay. Turns out it wasn't a stroke, just a medication interaction that caused similar symptoms, but it scared the hell out of both of us. Here's where it gets messy. While I was dealing with all this, Kara posted on Instagram and Facebook about our canceled dinner plans. The posts weren't supportive or understanding. Instead, she wrote something like, when your boyfriend chooses his mom over date night. Red flags anyone. But it gets worse. In the comments, she started responding to friends who were asking what happened. She wrote things like, his mom has a headache and suddenly I don't matter anymore, and some guys never learn to cut the apron strings. One comment really got to me. Someone asked if my mom was okay, and Kara wrote she's fine, just dramatic. Probably wanted attention since Steve's been focusing on me lately. I found out about the posts when my mom's friend Betty showed them to her. Mom saw everything Kara wrote about her being dramatic and attention-seeking, while she was genuinely scared about her health. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Reading Kara's words, I actually had to sit down. I've never seen my mother cry from anger before. She's always been composed, even when dealing with difficult clients or judges. But she was shaking when she showed me the screenshots Betty had taken. I raised you to choose good people, she said. This girl doesn't respect you, me, or your family. She made our private crisis into her public drama. The thing is, Mom's not wrong. I've been thinking about how Kara handles problems. She always posts about our arguments or relationship issues instead of talking to me directly. When we had that fight about moving in together, she posted cryptic quotes about knowing your worth. When I couldn't afford the vacation she wanted, she posted about settling for less than you deserve. I should have seen this pattern earlier, but I guess I made excuses because I care about her. This feels different though. Making fun of my mom's health scare online crosses a line I didn't even know existed. I haven't talked to Kara about this yet. It's not that I didn't want her to take that post down and apologize to my mom immediately, but she's been deliberately ignoring my calls and texts. So she doesn't know that Mom saw the posts. Part of me wants to give her a chance to explain, but honestly, what explanation would make this okay? My girlfriend had taken the worst night my family had experienced in years and turned it into material for social media sympathy. She'd made my mom into the villain of her little online drama. Has anyone else dealt with a partner who handles private stuff by posting about it publicly? I feel like I'm dating someone who treats our relationship like content for her followers. Update 1. Posted 5 days later. Holy shit, guys. I thought the social media drama was bad, but this situation just went nuclear in ways I never expected. First, thank you for all the comments on my last post. The consensus was pretty clear. Someone who publicly mocks your mom's health crisis isn't relationship material. You were right, but I had no idea how right until everything unfolded. So I spent the weekend thinking about how to handle things with Kara. I was planning to have a serious conversation about boundaries and respect, maybe give her one chance to understand why her posts were so hurtful. Then Monday happened. I should mention that my mom isn't just any retired lawyer. She worked for 30 years at one of the bigger firms in our city. She's well connected and still does consulting work. More importantly, she's incredibly methodical when she's angry. I should have remembered that. Monday morning, Mom called me and asked if I could come over. Her tone was calm, which honestly scared me more than if she'd been yelling. When I got there, she had her laptop open and papers spread across the dining room table. "Steve," she said, "I need to ask you something important. How serious are things between you and Kara?" I told her we'd been talking about moving in together, maybe getting engaged in the next year or two. Standard relationship progression stuff. Mom nodded and pulled out a folder. I had Patterson draft some estate planning updates after my health scare. It made me realize I should have everything in order. Patterson is her old law partner, and he's been handling her legal stuff for years. She showed me the will she'd been working on. The main house would go to me, obviously, but there was a trust set up that would give any future spouse of mine $350,000 when Mom passed away. $350,000. "I wanted to make sure your future wife would be taken care of," Mom explained. "I know how hard it can be to lose a parent-in-law, especially if she's been part of the family for years." I was honestly touched. Mom has always been generous, but this showed how much she'd been thinking about my future happiness. Then her expression got serious. "But after seeing how Kara responded to my health scare, I've asked Patterson to remove that provision entirely." I sat there processing this. Kara had no idea she just lost out on a massive inheritance by posting those stupid comments. "Mom, are you sure? I mean, maybe if I talk to her, Steve." Mom's voice had that courtroom edge I remembered from when I was a kid trying to lie about homework. "This isn't about punishment. It's about character. Someone who mocks a family member's health crisis publicly will never respect this family. I won't leave money to someone who doesn't respect the person who earned it." I sat there for a long moment, processing everything. "You're right," I said finally. I guess I needed to hear someone else say it out loud. I've been making excuses for her behavior for months. Mom reached over and squeezed my hand. "I'm not trying to control your relationships, honey, but I've seen enough people in my career to recognize when someone shows you who they really are. Kara showed us." I nodded, feeling a weight I didn't even realize I'd been carrying start to lift. We spent the rest of the afternoon just talking, about Dad, about the future, about what we both wanted my life to look like. It was the most honest conversation we'd had in years, but the whole situation still felt surreal somehow. I kept thinking about how Kara lost a life-changing amount of money because she couldn't keep her mouth shut on social media. Here's where it gets really complicated. That evening, Kara called me all excited about something. Apparently her aunt died last week and left her about $15,000. Not a huge amount, but Kara was treating it like she'd won the lottery. "This is just the beginning," she said. "Once we're married and your mom, will be set for life. I've been researching what retired lawyers usually have saved up. We could buy a house, travel, maybe start a business." I felt sick. She was literally planning for my mother's death and talking about it like a business opportunity. I asked her what she meant. "Come on, Steve. Your mom's in her 60s. She just had that health thing, and she obviously loves you. I've been nice to her for 3 years. That has to be worth something, right? Old ladies always leave money to the daughter-in-law." I told her that was a pretty cold way to think about my mom. "I'm being practical," she said. "It's not like I want anything bad to happen, but we should be smart about our future. She's probably got at least $500,000 saved up, maybe more." I couldn't sleep that night. Kara was already spending money that didn't belong to her and discussing my mom's death like it was a business plan. Combined with the social media posts, I realized I was dating someone I didn't actually know. The next morning, I started looking at apartments. I haven't told Kara about any of this yet. She still thinks everything is fine between us, and she has no idea about the will or the money she'll never see. Part of me is curious about how this will play out when I finally end things. For now, I'm just trying to process how someone I thought I knew could be so different from who I believed they were. 3 years of my life with someone who sees my mom as a future payday and thinks health scares are worth mocking for social media attention. Thanks again for all the support, Reddit. Sometimes you need strangers on the internet to help you see what's right in front of you. I'll update when I figure out how to handle the breakup conversation. Update 2. Posted 1 week later. I thought I was ready for the drama when I decided to break up with Kara, but this woman has exceeded every possible expectation for how to handle rejection badly. So I found an apartment across town and signed the lease last week. Then I planned what I thought would be a straightforward breakup conversation. I was wrong about the straightforward part. Saturday morning, I went to Kara's place with a box of her stuff she'd left at my apartment. I told her we needed to talk about where our relationship was going. Actually, she said, grinning like she was about to deliver good news, I've been thinking about that too. With my inheritance from Aunt Marie, I think we should start planning our engagement. I was thinking we could put a down payment on a house, maybe in your mom's neighborhood so we can keep an eye on her as she gets older. The way she said keep an eye on her made my skin crawl. Like mom was an investment that needed monitoring. I took a deep breath and told her that her social media posts about mom had made me reconsider our relationship. I explained how hurtful it was to see her mock my mom's health scare while I was in the hospital, worried she might have had a stroke. Kara's response: "Oh my God, Steve, it was just social media. It's not that deep. Your mom is fine, isn't she? I was just frustrated that you canceled our plans." I told her that wasn't the point. The point was how she handled private family business by making it public, and how she talked about my mom like she was being dramatic. "Look," Kara said, "I'm sorry if your feelings got hurt, but you have to understand my perspective too. We're supposed to be building a life together. I'm supposed to be your partner, and you dropped me the second your mom called. That doesn't make me feel very secure." I tried to explain that family emergencies take priority, but she cut me off. "This is exactly what I mean. It's like you're married to your mom instead of committed to me. When we're married, I need to know I come first." That's when I realized we lived in completely different worlds. I told her that my future wife would need to understand that I'll always be there for my mom, and that anyone who had a problem with that wasn't the right person for me. "Fine," she said, "but don't expect me to pretend this is all my fault. You're a mama's boy who can't prioritize his adult relationship. Good luck finding someone willing to tolerate that like I do." But when I actually stood up to leave, accepting the breakup, she suddenly changed her tone. Wait, she said. "Wait, I didn't mean that. Steve, think about this logically. You're going to throw away our whole future over some social media drama. Look, I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings, but breaking up would be stupid. We're building something together here." I turned back to look at her, confused by the sudden shift. "I mean, think about our financial future," she continued. "Between my inheritance and what your mom will leave me when we get married, we could have a really comfortable life. It would be crazy to give that up over something so small." I stopped at the door. "What exactly do you think my mom is leaving you?" "Well, we've been together 3 years and I've been nothing but nice to her. Daughter-in-laws always get something substantial. I'm thinking at least $300,000, probably more." I turned around and looked at her. She was completely serious. "Kara, even if we do get married, you're not getting anything from my mom," she laughed. "Of course I am. That's how these things work. Your mom loves me." "No," I said. "I mean legally, you're getting nothing. She had her will updated after your social media posts. The money that was going to go to my future wife. She's donating it to cancer research instead." I have never seen someone's face change so fast. The color drained out of her cheeks and her mouth fell open. "You're lying." I pulled out my phone and showed her the email mom had forwarded me from Patterson confirming the changes to her estate. $350,000, I said. "That's what you lost when you decided to mock my mom online." What happened next was intense. Kara started screaming about how that money should be hers, how she'd invested 3 years in our relationship, how my mom was a vindictive old bitch for changing her will. I left while she was still yelling. I'm moving into my new place this weekend. For the first time in months, I'm actually looking forward to the quiet. No more wondering what private moment is going to become public content. No more apologizing for having a close relationship with my mom. But apparently, I was just getting started with the drama. Sunday morning, Kara posted a long Facebook rant about our breakup. She painted herself as the victim of my controlling mother and claimed that Mom had manipulated me into choosing family over my relationship. The post got dozens of comments from her friends and family. Most were supportive of her, talking about red flags and mama's boys. But a few people who knew my mom commented with confusion, asking what had actually happened. That's when Kara made her biggest mistake yet. She replied to one comment with, "His mom literally changed her will to cut me out because I posted about being disappointed that he canceled our date. Apparently, I'm not allowed to have feelings about my own relationship." She was presenting herself as the victim of an unreasonable old woman who cut her out of a will over having feelings. What she didn't realize was that Mom has a lot of friends on social media, and they screenshot everything. I have a feeling this isn't over yet. I'll keep you guys updated if anything else crazy happens. Final update, posted 2 weeks later. So Kara has actually managed to turn this into a full-blown social media war that's gotten completely out of hand. After our breakup, Kara's Facebook post about being cut out of the will for having feelings started getting shared around. Her friends were posting about how terrible my mom was for punishing Kara over a relationship disagreement. What Kara didn't know was that my mom's friend Betty had screenshots of all her original posts, the ones where Kara called Mom dramatic and attention-seeking during her health scare. Betty shared these screenshots with other friends, and they started spreading them alongside Kara's victim narrative. So people could see both sides, Kara's claims about being unfairly treated and the actual posts where she mocked my mom's health crisis. I honestly didn't know whether to laugh or feel bad for Kara. She'd turned a private family issue into a public spectacle, and now it was spiraling beyond anyone's control. But Kara wasn't done. Last Tuesday, she showed up at my new apartment with an envelope. Inside was a letter from some attorney demanding that my mom reinstate her in the will because she had relied on the expectation of inheritance when making life decisions during our relationship. I called Mom immediately. She laughed so hard I thought she might actually have a health episode. "Patterson's going to love this," she said. "This girl thinks she can sue her way into an inheritance." Apparently, the lawyer Kara hired was some guy who advertises on late-night TV. Patterson called him directly and explained that Kara never had any legal right to expect an inheritance and that threatening litigation over a will change was borderline harassment. The TV lawyer dropped her case immediately. But this is where the story gets really crazy. Last weekend, Mom asked if I wanted to have lunch and clear the air publicly. I thought she meant we'd go somewhere nice and talk. Instead, she'd arranged to appear on the local morning news show. Turns out one of her old colleagues works there, and Mom had pitched a segment about social media and family relationships. The host introduced her as a local attorney discussing how online behavior affects real-world consequences. Mom came prepared. She had printed copies of Kara's original posts, her breakup rant, and the legal threat. She explained the whole situation clearly and calmly, how Kara had mocked her health scare online, how this led to the will change, and how Kara was now trying to sue for money she never had any right to. "This young woman made our family crisis into her personal drama," Mom said on air. "She showed no compassion for my health concerns and instead used them to get sympathy online. When she discovered there were financial consequences for her choices, she tried to weaponize the legal system." The host asked what message Mom wanted to send to other families dealing with similar issues. "Your private pain is not someone else's content," Mom said. "And if someone you love treats your family with public disrespect, believe them the first time." Then, Mom announced that the $350,000 she'd originally planned to leave for my future wife would be donated to the American Cancer Society in memory of my dad. The segment went viral locally. By Monday, it had been shared thousands of times, and people were commenting about their own experiences with partners who aired private business on social media. Kara, naturally, did not take this well. She started a GoFundMe claiming she was being harassed and defamed by my mom's media campaign and needed money to fight back legally. She was asking for $50,000 for legal fees and emotional damages. The GoFundMe lasted exactly 3 days before someone reported it for fraud, and it got taken down. Turns out you can't crowdfund revenge lawsuits based on losing out on inheritance money you never actually had. During those 3 days, though, Cara had started online dating again. She matched with some guy named Rodrigo who apparently has money. She was posting pictures of expensive dinners and talking about her new beginning with someone who values her. Rodrigo must have Googled her name, because by Friday, Cara was posting angry stuff about people stalking her online and ruining her chances at happiness. My guess is he found the news segment and all the social media drama and decided she wasn't worth the trouble. As of this weekend, Cara has deleted most of her social media accounts. According to mutual friends, she's moved back in with her parents and is working at a retail job. Apparently, several job interviews went south when employers found the news segment during background checks. Meanwhile, my life has gotten significantly better. I'm dating someone new, Rebecca, who works at the animal hospital where I take my dog. When I told her about my mom's health scare, we were talking about family. Her first question was whether mom was okay and if there was anything she could do to help. Last week, Rebecca brought soup when mom was feeling under the weather with a cold. No drama, no social media posts about it, just simple human kindness. Mom updated her will again last month. Rebecca's not in it, way too early for that, but there's now a provision that any future grandchildren will have education funds set up for them. The cancer research donation is staying exactly as planned. Looking back, I realize how many red flags I ignored with Cara. The social media oversharing, the focus on money and appearances, the way she talked about people when they weren't around. I thought I was being understanding and patient, but really I was just enabling someone who didn't share my values. The weirdest part is that Cara probably could have inherited that money if she just kept her mouth shut online. One Facebook post cost her $350,000 and her relationship. That's got to be some kind of record for expensive social media mistakes. The moral of the story: don't date someone who treats your family like content for their followers. And definitely don't mock someone's health scare if you're expecting to inherit their money. Also, never underestimate a retired lawyer who's pissed off. My mom is 64 years old and she absolutely destroyed someone half her age without breaking a sweat or saying a single cruel word. It was honestly impressive to watch. Thanks to everyone who commented on my original posts. You guys helped me see clearly when I was too close to the situation. Sometimes you need outside perspective to realize how crazy your normal has become. Edit. A few people have asked about Rebecca. We're taking things slow, but she's amazing. She's met my mom twice now, and they genuinely like each other. No forced bonding, no strategic niceness, just two good people who both care about me. It's refreshing to date someone whose first instinct isn't to post about our relationship online. For those asking, yes, Mom still does legal consulting. She's semi-retired but takes on cases that interest her. Patterson says she's been getting calls about social media and estate planning issues since the news segment.
"You treated this meal right?" my cousin mocked. I walked away without paying their $3,000 dinner bill. Later, my phone blew up with a dozen missed calls. I stood outside the restaurant, watching through the window as my family arrived one by one. The familiar knot in my stomach tightened. I hadn't wanted to come tonight, but my mother's voice on the phone, that guilt-laden, pleading tone she reserved for special occasions, had worn me down. "Just this once, Danny," she'd said. "Everyone will be there." That was precisely what I was afraid of. I took a deep breath and pushed open the door. The warm air inside carried the scent of expensive perfume and seared steak. A hostess approached with a rehearsed smile, but before she could speak, I spotted them, my family, gathered around a large table near the back. They were already drinking, already laughing, already putting on a show. My cousin Tyler saw me first. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Well, look who decided to show up. He raised his glass in my direction as heads turned. This table is for family, Danny. You can find a seat outside. Laughter rippled through the group. My aunt covered her mouth, pretending to be scandalized but clearly amused. My uncle shook his head with that same dismissive smile I'd grown up with. My mother looked down at her plate. I didn't flinch. I'd expected this. I'd been expecting it for 26 years. Without a word, I pulled a chair from an empty table nearby and positioned it just outside their circle, close enough to be present, far enough to maintain my dignity. This was familiar territory, the outsider looking in. Growing up, I'd been the family's favorite target, the one who didn't quite fit, the one who was too quiet, too serious, too different. Tyler had always led the charge. My golden cousin with his perfect grades, his athletic trophies, his easy charm that won over teachers and relatives alike. He'd perfected the art of making me feel small while making himself look good. "Danny's just jealous," he'd tell everyone when I wouldn't laugh at his jokes. He was born without a sense of humor, and they'd all nod as if that explained everything. What they never saw was the determination that grew inside me with each dismissal, each mockery, each exclusion. While they were busy laughing, I was busy building, working extra shifts after school, saving every dollar, teaching myself skills no one expected me to master. By 25, I had my own place. By 27, a stable career. By 30, investments that were quietly multiplying. I no longer needed their approval, but old habits die hard and families have long memories, selective as they may be. A waiter appeared at our table, notepad in hand. My family ordered without hesitation the most expensive steaks, premium sides, top-shelf drinks. They ordered as people do when they're not paying the bill. "And for you, sir," the waiter turned to me. "Just water, thank you." Tyler smirked, still pinching pennies. "Danny, come on, live a little." He turned to the waiter. "Bring him the tomahawk ribeye and a scotch, the 25-year. I didn't correct him. I simply watched as they performed their well-rehearsed roles. My mother, still beautiful at 60, laughed too loudly at my uncle's tired jokes. My Aunt Margaret, dropping names of people she barely knew but wanted everyone to think she was close with. My cousins, comparing vacation spots and car models in voices just loud enough for neighboring tables to hear. It was a performance I'd seen many times before. Successful, connected, enviable. What the audience couldn't see were the cracks beneath the surface. The mortgaged homes, the maxed-out credit cards, the loans taken to maintain appearances. I'd learned years ago that in my family, image was everything. Reality was just an inconvenient detail. The food arrived, plates piled high with premium cuts of meat, sides arranged artfully, glasses refilled with expensive liquor. They ate like people with something to prove, making appreciative noises, commenting on the quality, the flavor, how it compared to that restaurant in New York or that steakhouse in Chicago. I ate slowly, saying little, observing much. Tyler dominated the conversation as usual, his voice growing louder with each drink. He'd recently been promoted at the investment firm where he worked, or so he claimed. What he didn't mention was the rumor I'd heard through industry connections about upcoming layoffs at his company. My thoughts drifted to the first time I'd realized how superficial our family relationships were. I was 16 and my father had just left us. Not died, left, walked out on a Tuesday afternoon with a suitcase and never came back. My mother told the family he had passed suddenly. A heart attack, so tragic, so unexpected. It was easier than admitting he'd found another woman, another life, and we weren't part of it. The family rallied around us with casseroles and condolences. They spoke of my father as if he'd been a saint, a loving husband, a dedicated father, all lies. I wanted to scream the truth, to tear down the facade, but my mother's pleading eyes stopped me. "This is how we survive, Danny," she whispered one night after everyone had gone. "We keep up appearances, we don't let them see our weakness." It was the first lesson in the family philosophy, one I never fully embraced. The memory faded as Tyler's voice cut through my thoughts, boasting about his new watch. A limited edition, $30,000. He extended his wrist across the table for everyone to admire. I noticed the slight discoloration around the crown. A replica, good but not good enough. I said nothing. What would be the point? 3 hours and multiple courses later, the dinner was winding down. Desserts had been ordered and consumed. Coffee cups sat empty. The waiting staff had begun to hover, their patient smiles thinning as the restaurant around us gradually emptied. Then came the moment I hadn't anticipated. The bill arrived in a discreet black folder. The waiter, with a slight nod to Tyler, placed it directly in front of me. I stared at the folder, confused. Why would they give me the bill? Tyler leaned back in his chair, a satisfied smirk on his face. Thanks for offering to treat us tonight, Danny boy. Really generous of you. The table fell silent. All eyes turned to me. I looked around, bewildered. What are you talking about? I didn't offer to pay for anything. My mother frowned. But Tyler said, he told us you wanted to treat the family tonight, to show us how well you're doing. I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized what had happened. Tyler had set me up. He'd told the entire family that I was hosting this dinner, that I'd be covering the bill. It was a deliberate humiliation, a trap. Tyler's smirk widened. Come on, Danny, don't be stingy now, not after you made such a big deal about it. I picked up the folder and opened it slowly. $3,054.87, a ridiculous sum for a single meal. I never offered to pay for this, I said quietly, my voice steady despite the anger building inside me. Tyler lied to you all. My aunt gasped. My uncle shifted uncomfortably. My mother looked stricken. But you've been doing so well, Tyler pressed, his voice dripping with false concern. Always talking about your investments and your savings. Surely you can afford to treat your family just once. I understood then what this was really about. Tyler had heard about my financial stability through the family grapevine. He'd arranged this entire evening to embarrass me, to force me into either paying an exorbitant bill or appearing cheap and selfish in front of everyone. For a moment, I considered just paying for it. Avoiding the scene, the drama. It wouldn't break me financially. But as I looked around at these people, these supposed family members who had never supported me, never believed in me, something hardened inside me. I closed the folder and placed it directly in front of Tyler. You set this up, I said, my voice low but clear. You pay for it. The table erupted in confused murmurs. Tyler's face flushed red. Don't be ridiculous, he sputtered. You're just trying to back out now that the bill's come. I stood up slowly, pushing my chair back. You all want to know the truth? There is no promotion at your firm, Tyler. In fact, there are layoffs coming. I know because I have friends on the board there. Tyler's face paled. That watch you're so proud of, I continued. It's a fake. The car you're leasing, you can barely make the payments. The vacation home you keep bragging about, mortgaged to the hilt. A stunned silence fell over the table. I never offered to pay for this meal. Tyler lied to humiliate me. But you know what? I'm done. Done with the lies, done with the facades, done with this toxic family. My mother reached for my arm. Danny, please. I pulled away from her touch. No, I've spent my entire life trying to earn a place in this family, trying to be good enough, but there's no winning a rigged game. I picked up my jacket, maintaining eye contact with Tyler. You made your bed, now lie in it. Without another word, I turned and walked out, ignoring the frantic calls behind me. Outside, the night air felt clean and cool. I took a deep breath, feeling lighter than I had in years. My phone buzzed in my pocket, texts from my mother, then Tyler. Desperate messages I chose not to read. That night, as I drove home, I realized something profound had shifted. The family I'd spent my life trying to please, trying to fit into, no longer held power over me. Their approval or disapproval no longer mattered. For the first time in my life, I felt truly free. The next morning, I woke to a dozen missed calls and twice as many text messages. My family's panic had apparently escalated throughout the night. I made coffee and sat by my apartment window, watching the city come alive below. Traffic filled the streets, people hurried along sidewalks, all with somewhere to be, someone to meet. Lives intersecting briefly before continuing on their separate paths. My phone buzzed again. My mother, with a sigh, I answered. Her voice was strained, tearful. The restaurant had called the police when Tyler tried to leave without paying. My uncle had eventually put down his corporate card, but it had been declined. In the end, they'd had to call my cousin Jane, a lawyer with a steady income, to come and settle the bill. The shame of it all seemed to be what bothered my mother most. Not the deceit that had brought us all there, not the years of treating me like an outsider, but the public humiliation of being exposed as less than they pretended to be. "How could you do that to us, Danny?" she asked, as if I had orchestrated the entire evening. A familiar hot anger sparked in my chest. "Me? Tyler set me up. He lied to all of you, told you I'd be paying when I never agreed to any such thing, and you believed him without even asking me, just like you always do." "But you embarrassed us in public," she insisted. "You could have just paid the bill and we could have sorted it out later in private." I laughed, a short, bitter sound. "That's your solution, that I should have quietly paid for Tyler's manipulation just to keep up appearances." "Family protects family," she said, her voice hardening. "We don't air our dirty laundry in public." "We're not a family," I replied, the words cutting even as they freed me. "We're a collection of people bound by blood and lies, and I'm done with all of it." I could hear her sharp intake of breath. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying goodbye, Mother. I'm done trying to earn a place at a table where I'm not wanted. Done trying to please people who have never respected me. Done pretending." "You don't mean that?" she whispered. "We're your family, you need us." "No," I said quietly, suddenly certain. "I don't." I ended the call and blocked her number, then I blocked Tyler's, my aunt's, my uncle's. One by one, I systematically cut the digital ties to the people who had caused me nothing but pain. It felt like cleaning a wound, painful but necessary for healing. The phone calls and text messages continued for days, coming from different numbers as they realized I'd blocked them. I ignored them all. A week later, Tyler showed up at my apartment unannounced. I looked at him through the security peephole, his face distorted by the lens. He looked haggard, desperate. I didn't open the door. "Danny, I know you're in there," he called, knocking again. "Look, I'm sorry about the dinner thing. It was just a joke that got out of hand." I remained silent. "Things are tough right now, okay? I could really use your help, just a small loan until I get back on my feet. Family helps family, right?" The irony was almost painful. After years of mockery and exclusion, now I was suddenly family when he needed something. "Go away, Tyler," I said through the door, "or I'll call security." "Come on, Danny, don't be like that. We're blood." "Blood doesn't make family," I interrupted. "Respect does, trust does, love does. You've shown me none of those things. Now leave before I call the police." There was a long silence, then the sound of footsteps retreating down the hallway. That was the last time I spoke to any of them directly. Over the next few months, I heard snippets through mutual acquaintances. Tyler had indeed lost his job. My uncle's business was failing. My aunt had to sell her jewelry to cover basic expenses. The carefully constructed facade of prosperity was crumbling. I felt no satisfaction in their troubles, no vindication. Only a quiet sadness for the genuine family we could have been had there been honesty instead of pretense, support instead of competition. My mother made one final attempt to reach me, sending a handwritten letter that arrived 3 months after the restaurant incident. Her elegant script filled 3 pages with reminiscences of my childhood, expressions of regret, pleas for reconciliation. It was beautifully written, emotionally compelling, and utterly manipulative. She didn't acknowledge her part in my exclusion from the family. Didn't mention Tyler's deliberate setup at the restaurant. Didn't take responsibility for decades of choosing appearances over authenticity. Instead, she wrote of family bonds that couldn't be broken, of blood being thicker than water, of the obligation children had to their parents. I read the letter twice, then consigned it to the shredder. Some bridges once burned should remain ashes. 6 months after cutting ties with my family, I accepted a job offer in another city. A fresh start in a place with no memories, no history, no shadows of the past. As I packed my apartment, sorting through years of accumulated possessions, I came across an old photo album. Pictures of family gatherings, holidays, celebrations. Smiling faces hiding complicated truths. I almost threw it away unopened, but something made me pause, made me flip through the pages one last time. There we all were, the perfect family, the beautiful lie. I closed the album and placed it in a box marked Donate. Someone else could use the empty frame. My new city was everything I needed, vibrant, anonymous, full of possibilities. I bought a small but elegant apartment in a downtown high-rise, made new friends who knew nothing of my past, built a life based on my own terms, my own values. For the first time, I felt completely authentic. No need to defend myself, explain myself, prove myself. No need to brace for the next cutting remark or backhanded compliment. Just freedom, just peace. A year passed, then two. I settled into my new life, my new reality. The sharp edges of old wounds gradually smoothed. The anger that had once burned so hot cooled into something more manageable, a quiet wariness, a determination to protect my boundaries. At a dinner party with new friends, someone asked about my family. Without thinking, I replied, "I don't have one." The words surprised me with their simplicity, their truth. "Everyone has a family," my friend protested, confused. I smiled, swirling the wine in my glass. "I have people I'm related to by blood. That's not the same thing as having a family." Later that night, walking home under a canopy of stars, I reflected on that moment, on the person I'd become since walking out of that restaurant 2 years ago. I was happier, healthier, more at peace. The constant need for validation, the endless striving to prove myself worthy of inclusion in a group that never truly wanted me, all of that was gone now. In its place was something steadier, a quiet confidence built not on others' approval but on self-respect, on knowing who I was and what I stood for. I'd found my own family, not in blood relatives but in chosen connections. Friends who valued honesty over appearances. Colleagues who respected hard work and integrity. Neighbors who showed more genuine care than my blood relatives ever had. These were my people now. This was my tribe. As I reached my building, I paused to look up at the night sky. The stars were partially obscured by city lights, but a few bright ones managed to shine through. I thought about how far I'd come, both literally and figuratively, from that suffocating family dynamic. 2 years of silence had brought me more peace than decades of trying to belong ever did. I no longer jumped when my phone rang, no longer felt that familiar knot of anxiety before family gatherings, no longer measured my words carefully to avoid becoming the target of Tyler's mockery. I was free. Sometimes freedom comes not from what you gain, but from what you release. I had released the need for their approval, the hope for their understanding, the desire for their love. And in doing so, I'd found room for genuine connections, for relationships built on mutual respect rather than obligation. I'd received occasional updates about my family through mutual acquaintances. Tyler had indeed lost his job. My uncle's business was struggling. My aunt had to downsize. The carefully constructed facade of prosperity was crumbling without my silent support to prop it up. I felt no satisfaction in their troubles, no vindication, only a quiet sadness for the genuine family we could have been had there been honesty instead of pretense, support instead of competition. But that was their journey now, not mine. I had built something different for myself, something real. I entered my apartment and set my keys on the counter. My home was a reflection of who I truly was, neither ostentatious nor severe, but comfortable, authentic, lived in. Books lined the shelves, photographs of new friends and new memories decorated the walls. No family portraits, no forced smiles hiding complicated truths. Just honesty, just peace. That night I stood on my balcony, watching as the sun set over my adopted city. The sky blazed with colors, oranges and pinks and purples painting the horizon. I thought about family, about blood ties and chosen connections, about the courage it takes to walk away and the strength it requires to build something new. And I felt a sense of closure wash over me, not because my family had changed or because they'd finally recognized my worth, but because their opinion no longer defined me. I had found my own definition of family, built on respect, on honesty, on genuine care. The sun dipped below the horizon, darkness settling over the city like a gentle blanket. Lights flickered on in windows across the skyline, each one representing a life, a story, a family of some kind. I went inside and called my closest friend, invited her over for dinner the next evening. Asked if she could bring that homemade bread I loved so much. Listened to her laugh as she agreed. This was my family now, chosen, authentic, real. And as I ended the call, I felt gratitude sweep through me, not for what I'd lost, but for what I'd found. Not for where I'd been, but for where I was going. A life without toxic ties. A future without false performances. A family built on love rather than obligation. It wasn't the ending I'd once hoped for. It was better. It was mine.